And welcome to another edition of Israeli Frenemies. We are here in the ILTV studios in the heart of Tel Aviv. My name is Josh Haston. I am a journalist for JNS News, their Middle East correspondent. I'm here with my new friend, Nir Avishai Cohen.
Hi.
He's a political advisor and peace activist. We're going to get right to it. Let's go to the videotape. The United States announced this week that it's going to be cutting all funding for UNRWA. That's the organization supposedly responsible to take care of all the Palestinian refugees and their descendants. The U.S. had been funding them to the tune of $350 million a year. All of that is no longer. At the same time, the U.S. announced that it is closing the PLO mission in Washington. So there's major news here in regard to both UNRWA and other actions by the Trump administration. Nir, what do you think of that U.S. decision this week?
Of course, I'm against it, but my problem is not just from Trump, but the response of Bibi Netanyahu and the other politicians from the right wing who blessed this act. And I don't understand according to them, who's going to take care for the refugees. I mean, this is what UNRWA is doing those days. So I don't understand who will take care of it. I mean, UNRWA is the organization who should do it. So I don't understand this step.
So in my opinion, UNRWA has been perpetuating this conflict for 70 years now, keeping the Palestinian refugees and their children and their grandchildren in perpetual squalor. They've been leaving them there in the countries instead of resettling them, as opposed to Israel, for example, which resettled 800,000 Jews who were thrown out of the Arab countries. UNRWA also funds hate education in all their school systems throughout both Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. I think this is an amazing development, sending a strong message that UNRWA, who continues to hold these poor people as pawns instead of resettling them, will no longer be able to do so as they have been, because $350 million will no longer be going into their coffers.
Yeah, but you have to understand, UNRWA gives health service, gives social services, gives education to millions of people. It doesn't matter if it's 1 million or 5 million. I'm not going even to this debate. But who is going to give those services? Israel, Syria, PA. So what do you think? Who's going to give education, health service? Who's going to give it?
Well, I would say that the Arab countries, this is their opportunity to shine and step up here, and they've made pledges. The problem is, I don't think they'll be fulfilling their pledges. It's a lot of talk, it's a lot of speculation, but the fact of the matter is that the solution to this issue, and this is the core issue, is allowing these people to resettle where they are in Jordan and Syria. UNRWA is the only organization for refugees in the world that has a different definition of refugees than any other refugee status, meaning they allow children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to maintain the status of being a refugee. So even if you're born in Ramallah to a Palestinian mother and father, an Arab mother and father, you are considered a refugee, and then you get the hate education for years and years. So if the Arab world really cares about these people, stop using them. I feel bad for them as well. Stop using them as political pawns, resettle them where they are in their countries, and then the solution's over. Why keep the so-called refugee problem alive?
Do you understand that you are mixing between two subjects? The first subject is a political subject, and this is not the case of UNRWA. UNRWA is taking care for those people. It doesn't matter if they are, you can call them refugees, you can call them citizens of the Palestinian Authority, you can call them citizens of Lebanon, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about humanitarian here, and that's what UNRWA doing those days. So again, what do you think should happen? Who should take care of those people? Again, those millions of people.
Again, UNRWA, which, as we saw in the last Gaza war in 2014, 15 rather, hiding weapons and rockets in their schools.
This is propaganda against UNRWA, and
no, we have the videotape to prove it. So I would say the Arabs should take care of these people.
This is not the majority act of this organization. I mean, you use extreme situations against this organization.
The organization shouldn't exist anymore. Their doors should be closed. They should be shut down for the benefit of these people, not to hurt these people.
So what's going to happen in those refugee camps?
People.
Tell me, what's going to happen
first
in
of all, they're not, we say refugee camps, but in reality, we're talking about neighborhoods, middle-class neighborhoods throughout, let's say, Judea and Samaria and some of these other places. These are neighborhoods, and some of them are actually very beautiful. So the whole definition of refugee, it is an attempt, it's a propaganda attempt to keep them in squalor.
Have you ever been in a refugee camp in Jenin, for instance? Have you ever been? So I was. Okay, a few times, unfortunately, also in Nablus, also in other places. Those are camps, poor camps, UNRWA taking care for those people who live there.
I would say the PA should take care of them instead of putting all the money in their coffers and instead of keeping their people in perpetual, first of all, hate against Israel and a situation where they can't advance their lives and their well-being. I think it's up to the Palestinian Authority. I think it's up to the Arab states in the region to take care of these individuals. And enough with the status of refugee. Let these people live already.
You're closing your eyes because someone, again, need to take care of those people. Also, the IDF itself, high-rank commanders in the IDF said last week, someone need to take care if UNRWA will not be exist. You keep avoiding the situation. You keep avoiding the fact. The fact there are millions of people who need help. Unfortunately, I wish they would live in a best environment, in a good environment, and their condition was amazing. This is not the situation. I'm sorry. You have to visit in those places to understand how important UNRWA is to those people.
Listen, I drive every day in Gush Etzion, and I see how many Mercedes I can count and how many BMWs I can count. That is possible for all of the residents throughout the Palestinian Authority-controlled territories if UNRWA would get out of the way and stop causing their people harm. They claim to be a humanitarian organization. Stop hiding rockets in your facilities. Stop the hate education. That's the most important thing. Don't raise the next generation of Arab children to hate and wish for the destruction of the state of Israel. Once you get past that, anything is possible.
I didn't say all the Palestinians are poor, but for instance, in Gaza Strip, there are about 50% of poorness. This is the fact. You cannot avoid it. Again, UNRWA is the organization who deal with it, who give, again, services, health services, social services, even economy services, and they're the one who should keep doing it until, if you will give me an alternative, okay, let's do it. But do you have an alternative?
Well, if only Hamas would turn over the humanitarian aid, the tons and tons of humanitarian aid that Israel gives to the people of Gaza every single day, instead of using... A delegation of Israeli Arab MKs this week met with the Arab League chief in Cairo to discuss Israel's nationality law. We've talked about this subject before. It is a fact the Israeli government passed the Israel Jewish nationality law here in the state of Israel. And if you read the law, the bill itself, you see, as opposed to the claim by the Arab MKs, you see it does not discriminate against any minorities in any way, shape, or form. So they're trying to mobilize support in order to condemn Israel and various international bodies. And that's why they're having these meetings, not only with the Arab League, with the EU and others who are trying to force Israel to cancel this law, this declaration of Jewish nationality. What's your thought on this, Nir?
Of course, I disagree with you. The national law is not a democratic law. It's breaking the equality, the principle of equality here in Israel. This is one of the basic principles of democracy. And if we want to be members of the Western community, of the democracy community, we have to play by those rules. And those rules say equal to anyone. And this law is against it. So what I want to say is the fact that the Arab MKs went abroad to speak with the EU foreign minister, in the Arab League committee. I think this is a logic step, a logic move. I support it. I think Israel should understand that there are prices that it's going to pay because of this law, and this law should be changed. It's not logic from the beginning.
So I was in downtown Jerusalem just a few hours ago, and I was walking past the light rail train, which they have in Jerusalem, which goes into both Jewish and Arab neighborhoods. And I'm listening to the automated voice, both in Hebrew and then in Arabic and then in English, announce to passengers, you know,
In
different
the future,
information.
it will not happen.
So the question is, what has actually changed? Nothing has changed by this law. What this law has done is actually rectify a mistake 70 years ago, 70 years in the making. When Israel was established, we have a Declaration of Independence. We don't have a constitution here. What Israel is saying is this is the home of the Jewish people, period. But it's not in any way, shape, or form discriminating against anybody. Nothing has changed. No situation has worsened for any minority groups here in the state of Israel as a result of the law.
So why the word equal or equalness doesn't appear in this law? They will insist not to put this word in the law.
This law codifies the symbols of the Jewish state of Israel, the menorah. It talks about Hebrew as the language. It doesn't, by the way, there's a misconception that Arabic was somehow relegated to a secondary language. Arabic was never an official language. It actually was brought up because Arabic now has a special status. It's unbelievable how people are
one of the two
misconstruing what actually happened.
Official language in Israel, and it's not anymore. And it didn't. We don't see the influence of it yet, but we will see for sure. And the Arabic will disappear from the public areas more and more. We cannot agree. But back to our main point on this subject, I think. The right-wing politician trying to do delegitimation to the Arab MK again and again. When they went to protest in Rabin Square, and I was with them, it wasn't right because of the Palestinian flag, and I don't know because of what. Now they went to Cairo or they went to the EU offices, it's also not right. So what exactly you want them to do? To sit in quiet and to see this law pass and that's it?
What you're seeing here is democracy in action, because you actually have Arab MKs who are using their democratic right to go out and speak against the state of Israel time and time again. And you're seeing it here.
That's the thing.
Ahmed Tibi, the spokesperson for Yasser Arafat in the state of Israel. So we know what the intention is of the Arab MKs, to cause chaos, to delegitimize the state of Israel. And they've been doing this for years and years and years.
What do you think is the problem that those MKs went to Cairo to meet those people? What is the problem?
Well, what their problem is they're trying to, as we said, using the word again, delegitimize the state of Israel. So that's the major problem here. And it's ironic that they're fighting a bill about nationality when they have equal rights the Arabs in Israel do. We all know that 20% of our population is Arab-speaking population. They have equal rights, they have health care, they have education, and all these other things. And this nation-state law will not change a thing. You've read the law, right? I just want to assume you've read the bill, you've read the law.
There is a difference between delegitimize and criticize. And indeed, Israel should be criticized because of this law, and that's what those appointments, for instance, going to do. The press that the world has to put on Israel because of this law is one of the steps that I expect the Western world or the democratic world to do.
Let's not kid around here in terms of the intentions of the Arab MKs. It isn't just to criticize. They want to see the Jewish state of Israel gone once and for all.
Who told you that? Who told you? No,
it's clear by what they say on a day-to-day basis, using their immunity, using the
Arab MK. This is not the purpose.
And by the way, I'm not talking about the Arab public, by the way. There are plenty of loyal Arab citizens here in the state of Israel. Unfortunately, their leadership, it reminds me of the video during the election season in the city of Nazareth, in Natzrat, where you had a guy pull over his car and started screaming at the potential Arab MK, the future Arab MK, saying, "Get out of our town. We're happy. Nothing's wrong here. You're causing a balagan," as they say in Hebrew, total chaos. Leave us alone. Let us live. Let us have our work. Let us thrive. That's really what the Arabs want here in Israel. Not these leaders who are going to go and rock the boat.
Arab public. But what exactly do you want them to do? I mean, they are acting in democratic tools. They are fighting in a democratic tools against this law. I think it's more than logic.
I would say enjoy the free healthcare, the education, all the benefits providing. You know, the Arabs in this country have it better than any other place in the Middle East. Imagine if you're an Arab today, or somebody from Judea and Samaria,
like me and you.
Imagine, right, exactly. Imagine if you're living in Syria now. How much more do the Arabs have a great life here compared to what's going on in Syria and Yemen
why do
and
you
Iraq?
Compare them? Why do you compare them to the Arabs?
Major news in Israel today. Nir, I don't know if you've heard this yet. I remember when the Eurovision competition took place this year and Netta Barzilai won for her popular song Toy this year's competition. It was the top trending story here in the state of Israel. Well, Israel today announced that the competition will be held in 2019, drumroll, in Tel Aviv. So the competition will be held here, but not everyone's happy with that, particularly Roger Waters, whose life mission, apparently, is to encourage BDS of the State of Israel. He, along with 100 other artists and authors, wrote a letter in The Guardian, I believe they had it published in The Guardian this past Friday, calling on countries in Europe not to come to Israel for 2019 for the Eurovision in Tel Aviv, to boycott the State of Israel. It is just another, I mean, again, the guy's dedicating his life to bashing the State of Israel, and it's unfortunate. And I hope the countries are not influenced by this washed-up former Pink Floyd rock star. I hope they're not, and I hope they still intend to come here to the State of Israel in 2019. It's going to be a glorious event. Does an amazing job for the State of Israel economically in so many ways. What's your take on Roger Waters and all this?
Maybe I'm going to surprise you or not, I don't know. But I support this call of Roger Walter, and I support the decision of Lana Del Rey that didn't arrive to perform in Israel, and also the Argentinian national team that didn't come to play soccer against our national team. I want to explain something very simple. There is no separation between what's happening in Tel Aviv and what's happening in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. It's all under one regime. It's all under the responsibility of Israeli government. Now, we have to understand that the occupation, the apartheid that going on day after day in Gush Etzion, for instance, and in the West Bank has price or has prices. And one of the prices is the cultural boycott of Roger Walter, Lana Del Rey, and I hope many others, because I think till the citizens here in Israel, in Tel Aviv, will understand that there is a connection between what's going on in Gush Etzion and in Ramallah and in Jenin to what's going on in Tel Aviv. It's the same. There is a connection, and they part of it. And yes, if or when they will start to pay some price, maybe it will make them to think about the occupation or to go against the apartheid that goes day after day in the West Bank. It's much better than a war, much better than any other kind of violent. And I support it.
I'm glad you said, very important point you made, that Tel Aviv and Gush Etzion are the same. I like that very much because I agree with you, and I think one day Israel should finally annex all of these areas and include them in the pre-1967 State of Israel. By the way,
and
for the record,
citizenship to all of the Arabs there?
That's a possibility, but we want to talk about the BDS issue. By the way,
they
to
will
clarify,
vote to the Knesset, to the parliament.
Possibly. 140 artists signed it. 6 actually were Israeli, to clarify that point. But to say that there is apartheid in Gush Etzion or in Judea and Samaria, I invite you and all the listeners and viewers out there to come to Gush Etzion or anywhere in Judea and Samaria and see that it's an absolute lie. There's no apartheid. If you're an Arab, you get in a car, you can drive from Bethlehem to Hebron without passing a checkpoint.
As an officer in the IDF.
Come see the Mercedes and see the apartheid. That's an insult.
As a soldier, as an officer
Africans who
in the
lived under
Golani
apartheid,
Brigade.
it's an insult to them. It's an insult to those who actually lived under apartheid to accuse Israel of carrying out an apartheid policy. Come see it for yourself. Seeing is believing. Come visit Judea and Samaria and see how ridiculous that claim is. I live there each and every day.
Particularly
and Arabs and
in
Jews work
Gush Etzion.
together in coexistence like you've never seen before. Come to the Rami Levy supermarket and see Arabs and Jews shopping and buying together as one. Come see the
What about the
car auto
checkpoints?
body shop. You can get from, if you're an Arab, you live in Beit Lechem, you can get to Hebron without seeing one IDF soldier each and every day.
So you're telling me
that's
there
ridiculous.
are no checkpoints that stop only Arabs?
They're checkpoints going into Jerusalem. They're checkpoints going into the major cities as a result of 1,600 Israelis murdered and killed as a result of the Oslo Accords, which we're not going to get to today. But the reason they're there is to defend against terror. They're not hampering or blocking the lives. Again, you're an Arab in Hebron, you can go to Beit Lechem, you can go all the way up to Jenin, you can go throughout Judea and Samaria.
Can you go to Elazar? Can you enter to Elazar?
If you have a permit, we have over 100 Arabs working, making a living because of, thank God we're there. If they're not there, I can't go into any of the big signs of the big, in areas A, I can't visit.
Can they enter to Elazar? Or because of the Arabs, they cannot enter?
Can I go into Jenin? I can't go into Jenin.
I'm asking you.
There's no big red sign in front of Elazar that says, if you are Arab, you can't come in. But there is a big red sign in front of all the major population centers where Arabs live saying, no Israelis allowed. And by Israelis, it actually means Jews. Because if you're an Israeli Arab, you can go into these cities freely. So the real apartheid is the fact that I have to live behind, surrounded by security systems and fences, while Arabs are picking their crops in the fields freely every Friday and Saturday, completely freely.
How you can live in a place which is under military regime? How you can live in this place? Explain me.
Military regime.
Yeah.
You have IDF soldiers who are protecting Jews, who are protecting Arabs, who are protecting everybody who live in those areas. But I want to go back to Roger Waters, which is the topic, really, what we're supposed to focus on here. I think it's deplorable, Roger Waters signing this letter. I think it's deplorable for everyone who signed this letter. Many of those, I bet, who have never even been to Israel have seen the situation on the ground. And, it's unfortunate that people are actually listening. And I'm calling on all those not to listen to Roger Waters.
I saw the situation.
And we're out of time for today, but we just want to wish all of our viewers and listeners a happy new year from the heart of Tel Aviv, Israeli Frenemies here on ILTV. Join us next week. Don't forget, iltv.it.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Happy New Year.